the week, and your heart would be like, oh my goodness, finally I'm gonna get some good rest.
Exactly. Talking about, but no Saturdays for parties and all of that. And talking about parties, people are yet to get over Rita Dominic's party, traditional wedding party that happened before or during the week. So it was characterized by, show of fashion. You would call it a celebrity reunion, as it is.
Well, it was a celebrity reunion. That's why we've had a lot of issues coming out from the social media family, like you would call it, social media in-laws. Rita Dominic is one of the biggest brands in the industry. She has been in the industry for way back. I mean, I grew up watching her on the screen, and then finally, one of the things that she's always been wishing for, praying for, came to pass. I mean, it was one of the biggest celebration for her and for her friends and for her family, and it was quite amazing.
Interesting. It was quite amazing. But then, in as much as there's been so much development coming from there, from who didn't attend, calling out to people like Genevieve, like Marcella Jolade, like Mercy Johnson, and not leaving the male actors were not actually called out, because personally I want to call out people like Ramsey Noah, Emeka Ike, people like Jemike. They've always been pairs in a lot of movies back then. We'll leave that aside because frankly, not everybody will attend your party regardless. Depends on how the information got to them, what they had at hand, and your relationship with each of those persons. I know you will have different thoughts to that. But yeah, let's keep the bad vibes aside. Who attended and who didn't attend. But I want to say that Nigerian designers actually, did their best to design and costume all the celebrities in the best style possible.
Well, when you're talking about a celebrity outing, or you're talking about a celebrity wedding, one of the basic things that comes into mind is the style and the fashion. It's more or less like another red carpet event. It's more or less like another, global award event. And so every person who wants to attend that event from the celebrity part would want to slay to the latest, with the latest fashion, with the latest style. I mean, the best hand possibly that you can get. Now, if you're not within the class of the celebrity world, if you're not an entertainer and you want to attend, especially for the ladies, I'm not saying a bad way, but especially for the ladies, you would know that, ladies who go the extra mile to slay, to fit into the personalities that will grace the event.
Absolutely.
And so that is what play out here. You see different styles, and you're sitting on your screen and you're watching the different amazing styles that just pop up, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is wow.
Well, it was amazing. We saw the likes of Chema Chukwuka there. I mean, this is one person that's always very vocal, and once she has a heart to do something, she went all out. Her outfit was awesome, and she had the vibe. She was dancing and being one of the would I say the most cheerer, because I could see her practically dancing her heart out and all of that. And then we saw the likes of the legendary Hilda Dakubo Makbo, and then we saw the likes of our very own Iniedo, and all of them. They were there. They all graced the occasion. And you won't forget that some persons were called out for their bad outfit.
Well, calling people out for the bad outfit is also one of the things that you should expect when a celebrity event happen, because some persons in a mood to slay, in a mood to ensure that they make this impressive, this amazing fashion statement, they just end up telling us, oh, my wardrobe malfunction, or my designer missed a step, and so I couldn't help it but come out this way. Sometimes you find this person's doing these things intentionally, probably because that is what fits them at the moment, or that's the style they want to bring onto the show, or that's the personality they want to paint. Or sometimes it can also be a media plan or a strategy to, draw attention to themselves within the duration of the event. And after the event, they say no publicity is bad publicity when it comes to the entertainment industry.
Oh, no publicity. No, I think the former Big Brother Niger housemate Ike actually got back publicity for himself, and and you could see when he came out in the suit and a black bow tie for a traditional wedding. He got called out by quite a number of persons, from a lot of people tracing it back to why Messier actually left him, and all of that, to where they say he looks more like a waiter, and where you get to hear that he was like a driver, a boat driver who took some persons there. It was all round of shades for EK at that point.
Well, sometimes one has to be realistic, about the situation. You might not know where this person was at the moment, or why he had to dress the way he dressed at the event. I mean, let's be realistic. There's sometimes, okay, like we are on set right now, like you rightly stated at the beginning of the show, Saturdays are for wedding, but we are where that persons do also fix traditional marriages on Friday. So imagine that we have to go to a friend's wedding today, and we're on set this morning, and we probably would close around, say, 4 5, and the traditional marriage is starting around that time. So you have to travel out from, say, Uyo to Iket or to Ibnoy or any of the surrounding local government areas. You probably would not have the time to get back to the house and get to change into the traditional attire to be able to represent the moment. So what do if you have two choices, or you're faced with two choices? Either to go as you are and be there and make your presence felt, or to try and get back to the house, and before you get there the event must have finished.
Oh my God. Well, I don't think the event came like impromptu for some persons, because that should be an impromptu kind of invitation. I mean, there was an invite sent, and you had about a week to prepare. You won't tell me that Ike does not even have a senator to wear, or maybe perhaps a cap. A suit in a traditional wedding, it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well. There's no explanation to that.
Well,
I feel there's no explanation to that.
A lot of persons will say there's no explanation to that, but sometimes I just want to be realistic. I love to be realistic. I mean, within this climate.
How real could that be?
How real? Very real. I mean, okay, within this climate, you've seen situations where you just, you walk into a traditional marriage ground, and you've seen people with suits, you've seen people with different attires that is not even traditional attires, and you possibly would wonder, why would somebody wear an English wear to a traditional wedding? And then you probably would not be able to understand the reason behind it. Sometimes you can even have a wardrobe malfunction. You've had the clothes prepared for the event, and then just at the moment of changing in, something happens, and there's no way you can rush to the designer to fix it. And you cannot wear the thrown-out shirts or traditional wear and go.
A white senator would have gone, and I know I've seen Ike in a couple of white senators that he would have, switched to if that was the case. But I feel maybe to find a perfect excuse for him, let's say, could be his upbringing, because he wasn't raised here in the country.
Oh, that's not an excuse. That is not an excuse.
You can use that for him, since you're trying to find out the best
No, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but I'm just saying the reality side of the story. But then that doesn't excuse the fact that he should have made an effort to appear in a traditional attire. I mean, this is one of the biggest brands in the industry, and then it's more or less like a gathering, a reunion of the family of the entertainment industries, and that's why I can understand why a lot of persons, Nigerians, will call out celebrities who did not attend the marriage.
Well, that is true on the part. And then talking about Ike's angle of story, you could also trace the fact that he's not really used to this celebrity lifestyle. I feel it's still alien to him. He's yet to understand that if he breathes, it will get out there. If he doesn't breathe, people will talk about it. So he feels he could just do that and get away with it.
Hello, Ike is not a child. Even a 16, in fact, a 10-year-old, judging from the recent week experience, understand what it means to be a celebrity. And that's why you see a lot of persons do crazy stuff to get to be on the screen, get to be in the social media space, get to be trendy. So Ike does understand the importance of him and all the things that has to do with him. Whether or not you accept that fact, he understands. He's well aware. So let's just say he alone can tell us why he had to dress that way to that marriage celebration, and he alone can exonerate himself, and he alone can help us understand better.
Exactly, he alone can do that, but let's leave him at that. And that was celebration for Nollywood industry as far as Owambe is concerned. And then moving away from that to the music industry, where you heard Banky W grant an interview over the radio. Then he was asked a particular question about how he felt that Whiskey did not attend his wedding, still talking about weddings. And he said he felt bad. So on the video, when the video got online, and Wizkid commented and said LOL, then boom, it went viral. LOL, what does it possibly mean? Is he laughing? Some people would say it was lots of love, like lots of love. But you know, it could mean a whole lot.
It could
of
mean
things.
laugh out loud. Okay,
So
lots
because
of love. What was the other meaning? Okay, let me not rack my brain about it. But frankly speaking, there are just some persons that you shouldn't toy with. You should not take for granted the sacrifices they've made, the relationship you've had with that person. And there's just some events that no matter where you are, you must, if you value your relationship with that person, make way, make time. Even if your work happens to be the most taxing job on planet Earth, you get to take excuse and get to be there for that person, because you know that person would make that same sacrifice for you. That person wouldn't let you stand alone on such occasions. I mean, marriage is one of the days that you get to see people who respect you, people who are truly your friends and family. That's the day, one of the occasions where people get to make the most sacrifices. So waking up and finding out that somebody you consider family, somebody who considers you family, somebody you've sacrificed so much for to make his dreams and become reality, didn't find you worthy of being honored and respected on a day like that, can be very heartbreaking.
Interestingly, Wizkid left EME mansion in Lagos and acquired his own home in Lekki First One in 2013. That was after his record deal with EME, which happens to be the Empire Matrix Entertainment, expired. So it relocated, and it was assumed that they had a little bit between Banky W and Wizkid. So that actually could, to a large extent, though it was resolved, could be one of the reasons he never showed up there. But there's another angle to that story, because we understand that the wedding that took place in 2017 on 19th, that's the wedding between Edesua and Banky W, was sponsored by Mnet. And it was, a lot of persons felt if perhaps Wizkid had attended, it should have been Wizkid doing a free show to advertise Mnet. That if Mnet actually wanted Banky to come, Wizkid to show up on the wedding, Mnet should have given an IV to Wizkid. And then, considering the situation, the security situation in South Africa as at then, it wasn't safe for Wizkid to go there.
Well, if it wasn't safe, if it was safe for all other entertainers who graced that event, then it was safe for Wizkid to have gone there. And you know, there are some events that you don't need a special invitation to be attended to get to the event. I mean, this is your event. It's like me and my brother, or me and a friend, and my friend has a party, and just because the organizers of that party didn't reach out to me, or possibly my friend, and I had a misunderstanding, I choose to stay away from that. There is no excuse for such actions. There is absolutely no excuse. I mean, if it was safe for other celebrities who attended that event, it would have been safe for Wizkid. It's a matter of security.
And there's also information that there was another music festival held in Dubai, I think about that same time. So it would have taken Mnet to send an IV for Wizkid to come over there. It would have been safe for him to excuse himself from the other events to honor this other one. So it could be, like you have said, it was entangled in some web that it couldn't, detangle from. Or it could also be the other side of the story, that because of the manner with which he left the EME record label, then it would have been maybe an aftermath that he stopped to attend the event.
Well, as a matter of fact, the truth is that there is no excuse for Wizkid's not going to Banky W's wedding. I mean, whether or not you had a misunderstanding, let's state the fact. This is the person who brought you to the limelight. This is the person who made you who you are. And regardless of how big you become in life, that part of your story, there is no part of your story that can ever be written without that person's signature, without that person's name in it.
Exactly.
So at that point, I think Wizkid's priority was messed up. So if he had his priority right, we've seen persons cancel shows, we've seen people pause set recordings to attend things that are of priority to them.
Absolutely.
We've had artists pause events to attend to family issues. And so if Wizkid had considered Banky W's wedding a priority, every other thing would have become second.
But like Wizkid is not the only artist that was signed into the record label.
Yes, but Wizkid and
We
Banky
had
W
scales there.
had a special relationship.
How special?
It was very special. It was very special. It was more or less like Banky W took some extra fatherly kind of relationship with Wizkid. And you see, in as much as we had other artists sign on to the same label, Wizkid had some special attention. Everything about him was, let me go by, let's look at like from the biblical angle, there's that love, that special treatment you give to, a father would give to a child, that he adores more than every other child that he has fathered. That's the kind of attention that Wizkid got while with Banky W.
A lot of persons will say that it's because amongst all the artists that were signed into the EME record label at that time, it's Wizkid that is most successful, and that is the reason perhaps why Banky W is still sad, and since 2017 still talking about that he felt sad that Wizkid did not attend his marriage ceremony. And then again we had the likes of Scales, and Wizkid simply, I think he had 2 albums produced under that record label, and since then he's had singles and albums back to back. Then why we're still talking about a single event that Banky didn't attend, that Wizkid didn't attend?
Well, if I want to come from Banky's side, whether or not you asked him that question in 2017, in 2018, 2019, 2020, whether or not you will ask him that same question come 2030, his answer, as honest as he is just going to be the same thing. Do you feel sad that this person didn't attend your event? Yes, I do. Okay, so now that he's answered, that reality, that truth is always going to be there.
Now the bottom line is on the response of Wizkid to that particular interview. What does LOL means for Wizkid at this point in time? Is he actually laughing like, hey, he's still talking about this old story, or what does it really mean for him? I would try to get into his head and see what he's thinking about.
Well, for Nigerians, whatever that means, I think Wizkid alone is going to come out to tell us, and we are hoping that he comes out to tell us. I hope he does come out to tell us, because otherwise he's still going to keep on being dragged, and it's not going to do well for him for a lot of reasons. Recall that recently during the Grammys, Wizkid had issues, his fans had issues with Angelina Kidjo, and his inability to come out promptly to comment actually caused a lot of stir on the social media space. And then when you're talking about a global brand, a global image, it goes past the beautiful music that you're making. It goes past the message you're preaching through your music into your personal reactions and action towards things such as the one that Banky W has raised. And these simple things that gets ignored, one way or the other, has a way of costing you bigger opportunities, greater exposures.
I think Wizkid has gotten used to being called out several times. I recall his baby mama always calling him out all the time for not taking responsibility for the upbringing of the child and all of that. I think of recent I've seen less of that coming from his angle, and at a point his bestie Tiwa Savage was called out as well, that he should advise Wizkid that Wizkid should be able to take care of his children and all of that. So I think overall Wizkid really does not care about most of these online in-laws who are always prognosing on issues that he feels maybe is not of their concern. So this one, I doubt he's going to respond to it.
Well, whether or not he responds is not relevant, but if I were him, I will respond and set the record straight and possibly apologize to Banky for not attending. Yes, possibly apologize to Banky for not attending that wedding, because, I mean, it doesn't take anything from you to be that humble to say, oh, guy, I'm sorry, this is why I couldn't attend the wedding. It would suffice. I mean, it's not like Banky is talking about it because he wants to read the word and then get you to attend the wedding just, to prove a point. So it just goes to a point where you just have to let things go and do the needful to just let peace reign. And that's the situation we're in. So if
he does that, it would be a record-breaking apology, because Wizkid, I've never really seen Wizkid apologize for anything in this life. I've not seen Wizkid.
Yeah, he is not so far. There's no trace of him having done something and then be remorseful about it and get to apologize, and that would mean a different angle of Wizkid. Possibly tell netizens that he's not a proud, arrogant kind of personality that a lot of persons have painted him out to be. So it would be a good thing on his image, it would be a good thing on his brand, a good thing on his music.
Yes, so we look forward to see the new Wizkid. Perhaps we'll give him a few days until Monday to see if he's going to say a word or two with regards to Banky's mood as at when this happened. Well, yeah, we'll go on a short time out to head to the newspaper desk, and when we return, Rise and Shine will continue. Please stay with us.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this
lord.
an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Kong, Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
As of state and government, Secretary General, delegates,
Voting for Spectrum TV to recover for the lapses in counting.
Good morning. Here's Spectrum TV News Brief at this hour. I am Francis Edit. First in the news today is a report that Vice President Yemi STVNg has made a case for the active participation of academics and other professional bodies in politics. STVNg made the remark when he was visited by a team of 13 professors under the urges of the Progressive Intellectuals Advisory Group. Away from that, Minister of Labour and Employment Crises says the suspension of strike embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU is dependent on the union. Giga made the comment when he featured on a televised interview where he called for the varsity lecturers to be considerate. In another development, National Security Advisor Babagana Mongono says the use of technology in fighting crimes in the country has never been an easy feat because it is expensive in nature. According to Mongono, it takes time to acquire the necessary technological weapons to fight crimes, especially when the country lacks the capacity to mass produce the weapons. Meanwhile, Minister of Defense Major General Bashar Magashi has described the death of two Nigerian Air Force pilots, Flight Lieutenant Abubakar Alkali and Elijah Karatu, in a trainer aircraft as a devastating loss to Nigeria. Magashi, in a statement by his Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Mohammed Abdul Katri, said the death of Alkali and Karatu in the line of duty was sad but heroic. On the foreign scene, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has accused Russia of threatening global food supply with its invasion of Ukraine. Zelensky, who was addressing a forum of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, said Russia's blockade of Ukrainian Black Sea port cities has made it impossible for the country to export food supplies such as wheat. In sports, Lewis Hamilton and Serena Williams are committing millions of pounds to one of the bids, vying to become the new owners of Chelsea. Reports say Hamilton and Williams, who are the highest profile members of any of the three remaining consortia, had pledged an estimated £10 million each to the bid. We'll bring you details of these and more in the news at 12. I am Francis Adet. We'll head back to the Rise and Shine crew.
As of state and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
Voting for Spectrum TV to recover for the lapses in counting.
Kong, Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
welcome back. Yes, the show is still Rise and Shine, Friday edition, reaching you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. And of course, it will interest you to know that we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. So do well to use the handle at SpectrumTV and then join the conversation. Today we are commemorating the world over the World Investment Day, okay? World Investment Day, World Earth Day. Oh my God! Yesterday is commemorated the world over as the World Earth Day, and it's 22nd, and that's all about taking care of the planet.
It's amazing that today we get to talk about the Earth, because without the Earth, we are not going to be here. And without the Earth, the environment is not going to be in a stable state to give us what we need as a people. And yes, today being World Earth Day gives a lot of attention, gives a lot of focus to creating awareness for things that will one way or the other impact on the Earth, would one way or the other impact on our environment, would one way or the other lead to the prolonging of the Earth matter, which in turn will affect our lives collectively and individually as a people.
Exactly, and it is also the Mother Earth Day. And when you talk about Earth, all the activities of mankind, all the things that we do to ensure that we keep the Earth safe for all humans to, inhabit.
And yes, it would interest you to know that this time around the theme is still about the Mother Earth and climate, and so that goes to show the depth of awareness that humanity has risen up to, the fact that nothing can work out right if the environment is not right. And of course, you cannot take away the environment from Mother Earth. And Mother Earth is like the all-round mother of everything, both the environment and ourselves. And the focus is also shifted from just talking about the environment as it concerns the atmosphere, as it concerns ozone layer depletion and other atmospheric issues, to talking about the business climate, talking about the political climate, talking about the religious climate, and how to take decisive actions and reactions that will benefit each of this climate and in turn impact on Mother Earth and the entirety of our climates.
Exactly. When you talk about religious climate, those are very strong aspect of Mother Earth, because to a large extent a lot of the crises we have on Earth that leads to vandalism, that leads to terrorism, that leads to insecurity, most times emanate from religious crisis. And then you talk about political climate, you will agree to a very large extent, and we are in the times already that these are the times where when interest clashes, when people seem to disagree on a particular thing, you see them banter, you see them get physical, you see you hear things like gunmen, you hear things like hoodlums and toggery and all of that, and you see that to a large extent the activities also affect Mother Earth. It makes our Mother Earth inhabitable for humans and everybody that lives therein.
Yes, it definitely impacts on Mother Earth, and I want to believe that the group of persons who started to think about this year's theme were very intentional and deliberate in taking that creating that theme, because when you're talking about the business climate, we've known that multinationals, agencies who are into one business or the other, have significantly contributed to the depletion of the ozone layer because of their activities or industrial activities such as gas flaring, other industrial waste that are released into our oceans, into the earth, and all of that. And then you move away from the business environment to the political environment. You're talking about policies that will help to keep Mother Earth safe. You're talking about actions that the political will on the part of leaders that will ensure that people take the necessary actions to protect Mother Nature. You move away from that to the religious angle. Like President Muhammadu Buhari recently said that, for instance, Boko Haram is not a religious thing, but truth still remains that you cannot distance terrorism from religious fanaticism.
Exactly.
Because a lot of persons who go about taking lives do that in the name of religion, do that in the name of culture. I recall one of our guests talking about a tradition somewhere, I think in India, where you have things like honor killing when they feel all of those things are done in the name of religion or tradition. So talking about the religious climate would also go a long way to disabusing the minds of Nigerians, disabusing the minds of Africans, disabusing the minds of the people all over the world to know that whatever actions you're doing, as far as that will not help to the building of the society, as long as it will not help to build Mother Nature, you should not take such action. So it's an all-round call for a global collaboration, a global partnership across borders for us to protect Mother Earth.
Quite exactly. You will know that to a large extent, business climate is the angle from which the Earth is mostly affected. And you talked about gas flaring from multinational companies. Then you talk about from the agro aspect, you see bush burning and all of those, which to a large extent still affect. Then if you talk about the emission of carbon dioxide, it's all over the place. And then that is the angle where it comes from. And to a large extent, you've mentioned about policies. Yes, it is in the place of government and politicians to ensure that we have the right policies. Not just having the right policies, because to a large extent we have the right policies already in place, but implementation has always been the case. So let's see how politicians and the political class and the leaders can come together to see how policies can be implemented to curtail some of these harmful practices that are affecting the Mother Earth negatively. And will also, religious wise, from the fathers of faith, they can do well in terms of preaching the message. And then the gospel of Christ, yes, it's for salvation. Yes, it can also be used to curtail other excesses that are not, that are contrary to man, because the law was actually made for man. So any law that is affecting man adversely, I think it is in the place of man to, avert that. So yes, the religious leaders, they have a role to play. And if all these arms, if all these sectors of the society can collaborate effectively without anyone neglecting his aspect, we could see that we would save Mother Earth to a large extent.
Yes, and one of the statements that should resonate on the minds of people that's coming from the ed.org says that all together now is like the hashtag team for this year's celebration all together, so that at this moment is a time where all of us have to collaborate together, the business climate, the political climate, the religious climate, and take actions on climate. And like now is the time for the unstoppable courage to preserve and protect our health, our families, our livelihoods. Together we must invest in our planet, and they talk about the future of green being a prosperous one, and to say we have to act boldly, innovate broadly, and implement equitably. And you look at those three key terms: innovate, act boldly, innovate broadly, and of course implement equitably. So if you have to take into considerations all the things that are needed to get Mother Earth going, all the things that are needed to heal Mother Nature, heal our environment, it calls for a bold action, it calls for broad innovations, it calls for equitable implementations of policies, of actions across borders in order for us to achieve the set target. Because if we do not collaborate, if we do not join hands together, if we do not work collectively as individuals, as a people, as a government, as a corporate organization or NGOs, then we will miss out on the goal. So it's that unifying force that is going to allow us to achieve the set target, to build Mother Nature in the overall interest of not just our individual life, not just our family life, not just our individual communities and countries, but the global space as well.
Exactly. Now, these days have always been marked. It was set aside initially to celebrate in March before it was moved forward in 1970 to April. And since then till now, to a large extent, if all the themes of each year's celebration was adhered to and the message transited to individuals across country board, then to a large extent we will not have some of the issues we're having in Mother Earth today. So it goes a long way to show that yes, it's World Earth Day. Yes, the message is there, the theme is there already. As beautiful as it sounds, bringing a collaborative effort, seeking collaborative effort across all sectors to come together and save the earth. Yes, it is there. I think it's about time individuals, companies, NGOs begin to take the message to every individual out there in the streets, because you will agree with me that not much awareness has been created as we speak.
Yes, the team Invest in Our Planet is just so enormous that it calls for actions across borders and everyone. And of course, like the hashtag, what can you do to protect the planet? What can you do as an individual to protect the planet? What can you invest as a government to protect the planet? What can you invest as a corporate organization, as an NGO to protect the planet, especially for our children? The emphasis on the children, because we have seen a lot of things happening in this present generation. You're talking about diseases that was not there, or a mutation of some diseases that had been there before, but this time around it becomes a lot more difficult to tackle because of the damages that are being done to the ozone layer, the damages that are being done to the environment. You're talking about the disposition of medical waste, for instance, that are not properly done, that is also creating some level of harmful effect on the environment. So when you look at that, all of these things boils down to her children who are coming after us. I mean, if you look at the average person living now, who's probably, let's say, 40, 45, even 30, in the next 10, 20, 30 years might not be around to see what is going to happen with the planet. So the emphasis is also very critical, because our children are the future, and if we get everything right, then they would have a chance to live a more better life, a more productive life, a more healthy life, and then we can sit back in our heavenly throne, or in the great beyonds, like the Africans would say, and smile that we actually did the right thing, invested right for the advancement of our children.
Yes, looking at the way that the society still thinks towards innovation and ICT now, I quite believe that yes, the message should go beyond gas flaring. The message should go beyond bush burning, because we understand that this generation does things quite differently from the generation before now. And the message to a young child: the campaign should be taken to secondary schools. The campaign should be taken to nursery schools. They should understand, yes, the earth is at risk. Yes, this is what that should be done. Okay, at this time we should see people planting more trees. We should look at how to tell the young children, yes, it is unhealthy to cut down trees, and you could plant more trees, and just being strategic with the message. Just hitting it like, when you leave it bare, like, what can you do for Mother Earth? Another person just saying, what can you do for Mother Earth? Hashtag, what can you do for Mother Earth? And all of that. I feel emphasis should be placed. Plant trees. Okay, stop bush burning. And just straight up sending the bullet point to each individual, and it sinks into the consciousness of every person at this time.
Okay, so basically they've highlighted three basic areas which has to do with what we can do. First is nature in the race to zero emission, and then they talk about taking care of the environment and trying to avoid war, and taking care of the environment in the times of war. And then they've also talked about the impact of agriculture, or using agriculture to take care of environment. So if you look at these three categories, they are broad, and there are lots of different sections, different sub-actions that you can take as a person, you can take as a government, you can take as a corporate body. And of course the issue of awareness is not also left out. So it's an all-round well thought out plan that can collaborate, or people can collaborate and take decisive steps and actions.
Exactly. When you talk about zero emission, it boils down to the emission of carbon dioxide. Like I said, stop bush burning. It's a personal decision. Like, how many young persons would you teach on how to do compost manure, and tell them that yes, it is okay to gather your weeds, you clear your bush, gather them, they decompose, and then you can use them as fertilizers, which is quite healthy. How well is that going down at the secondary school level? Which are the target people for this year's team?
Well, it's something that we need to go back to the academic environment, and of course take the message down to the very people who really need to receive them. But most importantly, it is very critical that we take that action first by doing the things. Remember, children learn by seeing and observing what we as the adults do. Exactly. So by the time you as a mother, you as a father, you've done that over time, and your child keeps seeing you, and you take your child to the farm. I remember those days we were growing up in the farm. Each time my mom wants to go to the farm, they'll carry me along, carry all of us along, and then while the elderly people have their own big machete, you have your own small cutlass, and they give you one small portion, and like, this is your side of the bush that you have to clear. And then at the end of the day, whatever you do, mom would say, oh, you've done well, but you can do better. And then all of those things was part of the training, and it becomes a part and parcel of you, even though I used to skip most of the times.
Yeah.
But then it went a long way to tell me that, teach me the importance of farming, the importance of agriculture, the importance of doing things right, and it has stuck with me.
Well, when you talk about farming experience, I think I got that more when I was in secondary school. We had a very large school farm where we used to cultivate cassava, we cultivate corn, and all of that. I think at some point when the cassava is ripe for harvest, so the school authorities will harvest it, turn it into gari, and then we use it in the refectory. So yes, I had a lot of experience, but yeah, that was the reason I stopped offering agriculture as a subject when I was in physics class.
You don't say.
I'm not proud to say that.
You
but
don't
yes,
say.
But yes, I think it's about time we embrace technological practices towards agriculture to get the younger generation to be more attracted to agricultural practices, because the orthodox way, the archaic way of using hoe and bending and weeding, I mean, they taught us a whole lot of using plow and using the tractors and all of that. Then we should basically switch to the mechanized form of farming to get the younger generation more interested in farming, and not just the subsistent farming of gardening, planting okra, corn, vegetable, all sort of crops,
vegetables,
all sort of it in just one small portion of farm. Then weeding might be extremely difficult because if they put you in such a farm, you kill all the crops. Trying to avoid this one and avoid that one there, but
well, it's not easy. It's not oftentimes easy, but it's a beautiful experience.
Sure.
And yes, I think I read somewhere that the federal government is planning to put in place funds to buy more tractors, or buy tractors and keep in place where farmers who cannot afford to buy tractors in Nigeria can actually go rent them and use them in their farming practices. And if that is actually implemented, I think it will go a long way to boost agriculture and food production in Nigeria, and
Absolutely.
then it would help solve the problem. Because right now we're talking about the adverse effect of the Ukraine-Russia war on food security in the African developing countries of the world, especially in Africa, and Nigeria is not left out because we import a lot of wheat from Ukraine, and Ukraine President Zelensky has come out to say that because of the war and Russia's invasion and their stronghold within the port city, they have not been able to export wheat to the different countries of the world. So it's about time that we take deliberate actions to ensure food security within Nigeria and within our immediate environment.
Exactly. It is important that we are able to produce for the local farms and all of that. Then, quite frankly, we can't exhaust this without getting an expert to discuss on this particular subject. And we'll go on a short time out. When we return, with our guest on set. Please stay with us.
Earth Day is celebrated annually by millions in the US, Canada, and around the world on April 22nd. This year's celebration marks the 52nd anniversary of the very first Earth Day, celebrated in 1970. The theme for the Earth Day 2022 is Invest in Our Planet, focusing on the effects of climate change on the planet that we all share and what efforts are being made in the real world to mitigate it. In keeping with the theme, Earth Day 2022 will center on accelerating solutions to combat our greatest threat, climate change, and to activate everyone, governments, citizens, and businesses to do their part. The idea behind the Earth Day originated with the early 1960s. That's when Earth Day bloomed into a grassroots movement that resulted in the first official US observance of Earth Day, celebrated in 1970. Today, many cities extend Earth Day celebration for an entire week to increase awareness of recycling and better energy-efficient communities. Earth Day seeks to highlight and promote efforts dedicated to the protection of the environment as we enter the 21st century. We face many environmental crises including global warming, deforestation, endangered wildlife, shortages of potable water, and widespread pollution. These crises negatively affect our planet's resources and they pose serious risks to our long-term lifestyles and health. In 1970, a U.S. senator named Gaylord Nelson was inspired to raise public awareness about environmental problems. He campaigned across the nation with the hopes of gathering public support. He hoped to have environmental protection included in the national political agenda. His efforts were rewarded later in July of 1970 when the United States Environmental Protection Agency was created. With it came the passing of the Clean Air, Clean Water, and Endangered Species Act. Today, Earth Day is celebrated by billions of people around the world and is observed in over 190 countries worldwide. Earth Day celebrations utilize educational programs to inform people of ways that can help protect the environment and its natural resources.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my Lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Can you hear me?
Glad to have you join us back at Still Rise and Shine Friday edition, and we are super delighted to know that you are still there with us. Today is World Earth Day, and as we've been talking before we went on that short break, it's all about creating awareness about the things that you and I ought to do to Mother Earth in order to improve our well-being as a people, as a community, and of course, most importantly, invest for the welfare of our children who are the future of tomorrow. Joining us on set is an amazing personality, but as always, I'm going to let Otto do the honors.
Well, we've been joined right now by a professor of zoological and applied climatology. He taught climatology for over 30 years now, both in the University of EU and in other countries, especially the United States of America. I'm talking about Professor Kanimukanu. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much.
So we're going to teach climatology here in Spectrum Television today.
I don't mind that, provided you pay.
Yeah. So, like we've said, it's the World Earth Day, and the theme for this year's commemoration has been cut across all sectors. You're talking about political climate, and they're talking about business climate and religious climate. The call is on all. So which angle do you think, or precisely, should be tackled first?
Environmental climate. Environmental climate is the area that we should put concentration on now, because there's no need running around left, right, and center when our surrounding, our immediate environment is not providing what we should be enjoying. Rather, we are making it go from bad to worst. So I think we need to put our environment in proper perspective, in proper condition, in proper setting before we begin to think about the politics. I'm not saying we shouldn't do politics, mind you. We should do all that, but we should also not neglect our environmental issues and our environment.
Well, you said we should not neglect our environment, and eventually the essence why we're talking about political climate and business climate is because as a part of celebrating this year's World Earth Day, we've come to understand that we cannot comfortably take care of our environment without having the policymakers do their part, without having the business community do their part. So I want to take you from the angle, what are those things that the business environment, for instance, are doing that is currently impacting negatively on the planet?
Oh, we see that everywhere around us. The environment, we're exploiting the environment, and we are not putting back to the environment. I'll give you an example. Let's look at our state. We do a lot of oil exploration, and till tomorrow we see flaring gas in the 21st century, and the government keeps shifting the boundaries on when will we stop this. Every day we shift it because we don't have the willpower to stop it. And in the short run, we are benefiting, but in the long run, we're losing. And the problem with us is that we're always looking at the immediate result. Short term, medium term, no long term planning, no long term vision on what to do. That is where we're missing it.
Well, Prof, I'm concerned with the message for this year.
Earth Day is celebrated annually by millions in the US, Canada, and around the world on April 22nd. This year's celebration marks the 52nd anniversary of the very first Earth Day celebrated in 1970. The theme for the Earth Day 2022 is Invest in Our Planet, focusing on the effects of climate change on the planet that we all share and what efforts are being made in the real world to mitigate it. In keeping with the theme, Earth Day 2022 will center on accelerating solutions to combat our greatest threat, climate change, and to activate everyone, governments, citizens, and businesses to do their part. The idea behind the Earth Day originated with the early 1960s. That's when Earth Day bloomed into a grassroots movement that resulted in the first official U.S. observance of Earth Day celebrated in 1970. Today, many cities extend Earth Day celebration for an entire week to increase awareness of recycling and better energy-efficient communities. Earth Day seeks to highlight and promote efforts dedicated to the protection of the environment as we enter the 21st century. We face many environmental crises including global warming, deforestation, endangered wildlife, shortages of potable water, and widespread pollution. These crises negatively affect our planet's resources and they pose serious risks to our long-term lifestyles and health. In 1970, a U.S. senator named Gaylord Nelson was inspired to raise public awareness about environmental problems. He campaigned across the nation with the hopes of gathering public support. He hoped to have environmental protection included in the national political agenda. His efforts were rewarded later in July of 1970 when the United States Environmental Protection Agency was created. With it came the passing of the Clean Air, Clean Water, and Endangered Species Act. Today, Earth Day is celebrated by billions of people around the world and is observed in over 190 countries worldwide. Earth Day celebrations utilize educational programs to inform people of ways that can help protect the environment and its natural resources.
Glad to have you back. Yes, this is still Rise and Shine, reaching you live from the beautiful hilltop Ibiakuren, and we sincerely apologize for that short break, and we're back. We're still talking about World Health Day, and we have Professor Kanim here who will give insight as to what we can do as a climatologist and someone who has taught theoretical climatology across country levels, including the United States. So, Prof, this year is targeted at people at younger age, people basically secondary, primary school level, and they want to send the message down there so that, perhaps in the near future they will be able to serve the motherhood and have it to be inhabitable for them. What are those strategic plans? How can this message reach them, considering the lack of much awareness at the moment?
Yeah, I think the problem with us educating our younger ones is we are not taking them along. The young people think that we are okay, but we need to go back to teach them. When I was a young person, we used to have secondary school clubs, geography clubs, science clubs, but if you go to our secondary schools, they are no more there. The important thing is that we are de-emphasizing education. We are de-emphasizing research and teaching. That is where the problem is. Until we go back to get our children interested in education, not just how to get a platform and make money. Good to make money, but there are some things we need to know in the process of making money so that we won't destroy our environment, destroy our future, trying to earn today. That is where our children are out completely. They need to be brought in, they need to be educated, they need to be trained, they need to be taught.
Well, you have raised quite a vital point about creating clubs like the geography clubs and all of that. Whose responsibility is it to do that?
Well, I don't know. I think it is the schools. The schools and the teachers and the curriculum and the method, we just need to change. We need to grow from what it used to be to meet our modern day scenarios so that the children can be interested. We can't use the methods of past and think that we can catch them along. No, these days is digital. We need to digitize all those things that we used to do and get them interested. The point is they are not interested in learning because to them it's, oh, we need to do things in the educational sector to attract them.
Okay, so like you've said that possibly we've had challenges in the educational sector. Presently, we're having a generation of students or pupils who are not very interested in learning because of the, the rat race for making money, and all that matters is just making money. Now, part of the reasons why we have those kind of generation, a lot of persons would say, is because of the curriculum that is being released to the academic environment, which of course is pioneered by the agencies who make policies for education, which boils down to the government. Now, given the opportunity, what would be your comments to such agencies, to just such government bodies?
Exactly what I have said before. I think we need to reorganize our educational sector.
Okay, Prof. Before you address that, let's take this short time out.
Okay.
When we return, the Prof will tell us which way possible for MDS that are responsible for the curriculum that is being used by institutions here.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abuse. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Welcome back. Yes, the series still Rise and Shine, reaching you live from the beautiful hills of Bibiakuran. And it's interesting to know that we are live on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can do well to use the handle at SpectrumTv and join the conversation. It is World Earth Day, and it is commemorated the world over to save the Mother Earth politically, religiously, and business-wise. And we're here still speaking with Professor Ekanum. Prof, you were about to address an issue when it has to do with curriculum in the secondary school.
I'm thinking that curriculum in secondary schools need to be revitalized to include new things that our generation need to know and learn to keep them abreast. It's good to make money, but make money in a convenient way to preserve the environment. I am particular about the environment. As we speak, the global warming issues are things that are almost out of hand, and our younger people are not aware of it.
Well, I'm of the opinion that it should be more emphatic. The bullet point should come out straight. Like we've heard, a typical Nigerian have heard of global warming, they've heard of, the zero emission, it's been said. What are those strategic things that we can point out at this moment, those unhealthy human practices that we can call out at the moment and say, #stop this?
Okay, I can tell you straight that the problem of global warming has a lot to do with policies at our own level. But there are some things we could do as individuals. Like we keep saying, don't cut down trees. The only thing keeping us alive and comfortable are trees and ocean, which we call the carbon sinks. They are the ones that are taking away the excess carbon dioxide that we have. And we are harvesting the forests with ease. No regulation, no nothing. People are just doing those. So those are the, keep your environment clean, plant trees. Those are the things that, minor little things that we need to do. But the major other things should be from the government. The policies, like I mentioned, gas flaring is a problem in Nigeria, and nobody's talking about it. Those are things that we need to do.
Okay, sir. So one of the things you mentioned in your early comment was to give back to the society. Now, would you say that at this point in time that individuals, corporate organizations, and possibly government are doing enough to give back to Mother Nature?
I won't think so. I think we still have a long way to go there. I'll give you an instance. If we want to give back to our Mother Earth, want to give back to our environment, we have to be conscious, what does the environment need? How can we give back? So that takes me to the issue of making adjustments in our policies to accommodate what to give. How will, as an individual, a society, a community, cooperate? What are they supposed to do to keep the environment healthy? Those are things that we need to bring out, which we have not.
Okay,
so what are those things?
Those things, there are many. One, like I mentioned,
planting trees.
Planting trees, cleaning our environment. There are some things like, let me give you an example. In our environment, we have everybody drilling boreholes. No regulation, no nothing. Everybody has because the agency that supplies water has failed. So everybody goes on his own way to. We see people burning things. Anywhere they just burn things. It doesn't happen in any civilized society anymore. Waste management is becoming a major problem. From in household to the community to the state, it's a serious problem. Those are things we can easily handle, but we're not. We are not committed enough to put it correctly.
Okay, as a climatologist that have been in practice for about over 30 years now, what are those strategic things you think your department can do, to further spread the message of, global warming and the best practices?
I think as a department, all we can do is research and training.
How about awareness? How about, forming campaigns and maybe trying to reach out to governments to see if they could get the right policies in check?
You can't say we've not done that. The problem is
I'm not
problem is funding. Let's face facts. In our climb, People don't put their money into things that don't bring immediate result. That's what I said from the beginning. We need to do things that we project long term. But you see, in civilized places, people vote and fund research. Those are the things that we can't go to bring old ideas and old theories to propagate now. We need to, in our environment, what works? For instance, in climate, there's what we call microclimate. What happens in this room is what you create. And creating a microclimate here can be conducive here, but can be injurious to people outside. Those are things we need to know. In our micro environment, what works, what does not work. Because importing everything, hook, line, and sinker, is what is creating the problem we're having.
Okay, let me take you back down to Akwa Ibom State. We know that one of the things that we've had, and we've had persons complain, is the suit which is caused by oil exploration. We've also had problems of waste management in some part of Akwa Ibom State, where we've had issues of open defecation, for instance, and we've had discharge of waste that are very harmful to the waterways, which you've mentioned are one of the things that's keeping us alive and healthy. Now, as an expert in the field, what would be your advice? How would you counsel the government of the land? How would you counsel the relevant agencies, NGOs, and individuals on how to go about, handling this waste and taking care of this environment?
I think the Waste Management Board in Akwa Ibom State is doing a good job, but the truth is they have been overwhelmed. If you look at waste generation in Akwa Ibom, it is not done properly. We should do what we call waste management, which starts from the household. If in my household I segregate waste, the biodegradable, the recyclable, it makes it easier for the Waste Management Board to handle it. But when we jump and put everything together, you see the junk we have. Some of those things, the non-biodegradable, will be there in the soil for years, plastic in particular. We need to begin to think about waste management, which starts from the household, and make people pay. People make a living from waste management. People should pay for the things they dispose. So, this waste shows income issues. You can see the waste generated from a very rich person is different from the waste generated from a very poor person. And so when managing this waste, people should pay for disposing this waste. That is where the government is missing it. And they think at the time the budget for waste management is going to grow and continue to grow. So the better thing to do is let's do the right thing. Begin the management from the household. People will separate their waste, manage it, and send it down and pay. Then the excess will be taken care of by the government. Government can't do everything.
Well, that's interesting to know. But do you think by any this professional council can be extended to the Ministry of Environment and the Waste Management Board?
I think so.
Like officially, do you think you can, make such recommendations?
We have
to government?
before.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
I have before.
So
I personally have done that before. Like I told you, the thing is, waste management is handled completely by the state. The individuals are not paying. They are not, because if you pay for what you're using, you'll be more careful. People just dump waste anyhow because nothing happens. I think time has come for people to begin to see this as people can make wealth out of it.
Oh, well, when you say individuals should pay for waste disposal, how do you mean? Because I know to a large extent, if they are able to segment the waste, the bio waste from the plastic ones are recyclable. You can recycle them.
Right.
So it means it should be bought over and not them paying to dispose them.
No. What I mean by paying to dispose is that somebody will have to come to your house to pick the recyclables.
So how about the
somebody will have to come to your house to pick the biodegradable to dispose. By that process, you pay for waste, your disposal of your waste. You're not going anywhere. Those things are being done. They come and pick it. But because we're not paying for it, we just dump everything together, throw it away anyway.
Well, that would have been a very lofty idea if we have a proper town planning system where everybody can just have their waste, kept in front of their houses. That is done in other climes, and then they just pick up and then you pay. It's not been very.
It's not a problem of town planning.
But well, sir, I'm concerned with this part. Isn't there a possibility of having, if that should be done, a possibility of having like a warehouse? If you have plastic waste, okay, you can take it to XYZ location and get paid. You just count the plastic and then you drop it there and you get your peanut and then you move. That way you will find out that a lot of waste will not be littered around and lying waste.
You are saying exactly what is happening now. Do you know why people go around picking those things? Because they go and give it and get a peanut. Allow companies do that, not individuals. Somebody you can hold responsible for that. I, as an individual, I can decide to pick the thing and you give it. I decide to discard it anywhere.
No, you don't. Well, okay.
What I'm saying is, if a corporate entity goes for those wastes at various places and takes it, they will pay, they will get more money. They will be paid more. They will make use of it. But if an individual does it, and we have so many individuals doing it now, which generated a crisis sometime in this state. Individuals that should do that should be from a corporate organized. Let me use that word, organized.
And I'm not just looking at individuals. Okay, let's say in a practical case scenario, a company comes up, to pick those waste, responsible for it. And you understand that if you want people to go house to house to pick them up, it means the company will have to recruit agents that would go around to do that.
Yes.
Okay, how about companies set up locations, 3, 4, 5 strategic places around town, and then tell people, make an announcement, take your waste, your plastic waste to XYZ location where you have just one agent and as an attendant there who will pick up the waste, keep them where it should be, and then the company moves by truck, pay warehouse and pack them.
It's an option. It's an alternative. It's good, depending on whether our people will do it.
That's another line to go about it, depending on whether people will do it. Now, you've raised a lot of valid points, but at this point in time, for want of time, the last question I would want to ask you now is, peradventure we have such agencies in place. Peradventure we have an entity that is able to handle the waste. Do you think Akwa Ibom people, for instance, would be receptive to, paying like we have in other climes? Because it's one thing to have a policy in place, is another thing to have them being implemented, is another thing to have people key into the policy, which will bring the much needed results.
Akwa Ibom people are human beings. Human beings are same everywhere. We want to maximize profit. We want to reduce our inconveniences to the barest minimum. So what we need to do, what the government needs to do, is give them incentives. Like she said, if they go and get paid for those things, they can take it there. But it depends on how much you pay for them. Because if you're paying them peanuts and somebody has his time, he doesn't feel his time is worth that amount, he will dump the thing anywhere. So the issue is, how is the environment? Is the environment conducive enough for people to be willing to do what should be done?
Well, at this point, Prof, we'd like to thank you very much for coming through on the show and sharing your expertise, knowledge. We hope that the relevant agencies can get a thing or two here and utilize or implement to ensure that we save Mother Earth and make it more inhabitable for individuals living on the earth and the planet for perhaps many more centuries to come.
And in fact, we should invest in the earth. Not just the earth, the atmosphere is part of the earth. That's the area we have neglected for so long, and the atmosphere does not have boundaries. What happens in Ibadan will reach Uyo. What happens in Uyo will reach Calabar. There's no political boundaries there. And that is the area we have not even looked at, which is a talk for the next day.
All right, a talk for the next day. That leaves room for another invite for you there. You sure will get another invite from us. But this is where we wrap up on this, but we'll be back on another interview. So stay with us.
which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my Lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this
Lord.
an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Come, Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Earth Day is celebrated annually by millions in the US, Canada, and around the world on April 22nd. This year's celebration marks the 52nd anniversary of the very first Earth Day celebrated in 1970. The theme for the Earth Day 2022 is Invest in Our Planet, focusing on the effects of climate change on the planet that we all share and what efforts are being made in the real world to mitigate it. In keeping with the theme, Earth Day 2022 will center on accelerating solutions to combat our greatest threat, climate change, and to activate everyone, governments, citizens, and businesses to do their part. The idea behind the Earth Day originated with the early 1960s. That's when Earth Day bloomed into a grassroots movement that resulted in the first official US observance of Earth Day celebrated in 1970. Today, many cities extend Earth Day celebration for an entire week to increase awareness of recycling and better energy-efficient communities. Earth Day seeks to highlight and promote efforts dedicated to the protection of the environment as we enter the 21st century. This crisis negatively affect our planet's resources, and they pose serious risks to our long-term lifestyles and health. In 1970, a U.S. senator named Gaylord Nelson was inspired to raise public awareness about environmental problems. He campaigned across the nation with the hopes of gathering public support. He hoped to have environmental protection included in the national political agenda. His efforts were rewarded later in July of 1970 when the United States Environmental Protection Agency was created. With it came the passing of the Clean Air, Clean Water, and Endangered Species Act. Today, Earth Day is celebrated by billions of people around the world and is observed in over 190 countries worldwide. Earth Day celebrations utilize educational programs to inform people of ways that can help protect the environment and its natural resources.
Come, Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Ukpabio.
Iyayo.
Earth Day is celebrated annually by millions in the US, Canada, and around the world on April 22nd. This year's celebration marks the 52nd anniversary of the very first Earth Day celebrated in 1970. The theme for the Earth Day 2022 is Invest in Our Planet, focusing on the effects of climate change on the planet that we all share and what efforts are being made in the real world to mitigate it. In keeping with the theme, Earth Day 2022 will center on accelerating solutions to combat our greatest threat, climate change, and to activate everyone, governments, citizens, and businesses to do their part. The idea behind the Earth Day originated with the early 1960s. That's when Earth Day bloomed into a grassroots movement that resulted in the first official US observance of Earth Day celebrated in 1970. Today, many cities extend Earth Day celebration for an entire week to increase awareness of recycling and better energy-efficient communities. Earth Day seeks to highlight and promote efforts dedicated to the protection of the environment as we enter the 21st century. We face many environmental crises including global warming, deforestation, endangered wildlife, shortages of potable water, and widespread pollution. These crises negatively affect our planet's resources and they pose serious risks to our long-term lifestyles and health. In 1970, a U.S. senator named Gaylord Nelson was inspired to raise public awareness about environmental problems. He campaigned across the nation with the hopes of gathering public support. He hoped to have environmental protection included in the national political agenda. His efforts were rewarded later in July of 1970 when the United States Environmental Protection Agency was created. With it came the passing of the Clean Air, Clean Water, and Endangered Species Act. Today, Earth Day is celebrated by billions of people around the world and is observed in over 190 countries worldwide. Earth Day celebrations utilize educational programs to inform people of ways that can help protect the environment and its natural resources.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
he linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this
Lord.
an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Glad to have you back. This is still Rise and Shine, reaching you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuren. And of course, we've been joined again to share thoughts and of course insights on the essence and the necessity to keep the Mother Earth safe as we commemorate the World Earth Day. Talking about Professor Imokbong, who has joined us here today. He is a professor of biography and biogeography and Department of Geography, University of Uyo. And of course, we've also been joined by the Chairman, Nigerian Environmental Society, Professor Comfort Etuk. Wonderful to have profs joined us today to give insight on this very important topic. Well, a lot has been said about climate, a lot has been said about the earth, and the emphasis for this year is about, making the Mother Earth safe for us all. We are much concerned about solutions at this point in time because there are different aspects to it. They've talked about the political climate, they've talked about the religious climate, they've also talked about the business climate. In the whole, joining all together, what would be the preferred solution, Professor Mo?
The solution, first, thank you very much for coming on that way. The solution is multifaceted. You can't say this is.
Okay.
It brings everybody together. For example, today is celebrated as the Earth Day, and it started a long time ago.
Yes.
Started, I think, 50 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and people have come on board to support the cause. That is to make the Earth suitable for us to live. Make the Earth suitable for us to live. And up till now, we still have not achieved that suitable Earth. And so the struggle continues. Sure. And as civilization progresses, the factors that make the Earth unsuitable also increases.
Sure.
So it seems to me it's going to be an endless thing. But that doesn't mean we should give up. We should not give up. We will always try, at least we will reach a certain level at which the Earth is suitable for us to live. For instance, we are told that in the next couple of years, not too long from now, if we do not put our hands together, that the climate might warm up, the Earth might warm up by as much as 3.5 degrees. And that will be like frying. That the sensible heat, that is the one that you will feel, will almost fry you at 3.5 degrees centigrade rise. And so everything that can be done to ensure that this rise is minimized, decreased, should be done.
Well, we still want to take into your wealth of experience, having stayed in Mother Earth for quite a considerable decades, and we want to know what are those things that you think we can do to avert that, to getting the temperature rise to a frying stage.
The first thing is to plant trees. I'm a biographer and I plant trees. In fact, in my compound, people come around and say, Prof, you are living in a forest. I say, yes, I am a primate. I like to live in a forest because even the trees around will moderate the local climate for you. So we should try as much as possible to green up our world. Just plant trees. Just because trees are capable of absorbing carbon dioxide, which is the major contributor to warming. Absorb the carbon dioxide and store it, and then reduce its accumulation in the atmosphere.
All right. So my question is directed at you, Professor Comfort. Your focus is basically about the environment. So I want to come at you from the environment point of view. Right now, we are aware of different activities that we are doing as human beings that have significantly negatively impacted on the environment. Now, in your expertise as an environmental burst person, what would you say is the way forward for us to protect the environment?
Well, thank you for the question. The protecting sustenance of our environment is everybody's business. And it has to be done very, very urgently, because the earth, as it were, is where we get our food, where we get our sustenance, our health comes from the environment that we live. And there are so many practices we human beings do that help to destabilize the earth a lot. We dump refuse on waterways and clog the waterways and drainages. And this leads to flood, because when the drainages are overwhelmed, the whole place is flooded. What of our use of fossil fuels, the coals, the crude oil, the natural gas? We are talking about clean energy now, renewable energy. You should be able to switch. I know it needs a lot of infrastructure. We need to switch from what we are using now to renewable energy, like the solar energy, wind energy, water energy. What of situations where we in the home, you go to the markets, you want to buy things, you're using plastics. These plastics, they're causing a lot of problems because they also clog drainages.
Yeah.
The plastics go to the oceans, and we get what we call microplastics, and then the fishes, the crayfish, and all those things that we eat, they eat the plastics and the chemicals that we dump in the atmosphere, and then on the earth, and then we as human beings at the end, we partake of all those chemicals, and it's causing a lot of health hazards to human beings.
Well, we from what you said, we see a cycle of things, going round.
Yes.
What would be your recommendations amidst this? Is it possible? Do you see a possibility? Because switching from, it's okay to say we switch to clean energy. It's okay to say we diversify and look at the solar plant. How realistic is this, or what are those, practical steps you would recommend?
Well, I know the journey is far, but if we put things in place and start planning for it, there's no how we will not be able to reach there. People have started imbibing the culture of using solar panels in their homes. It's costly, but as time goes on, I'm sure the average Nigerian will be able to key into it. Yes.
So, Professor Opong, my next question comes to you.
Yeah.
As an expert in the field of geography, you've talked about tree planting as one of the basic ways for us to protect Mother Earth. But we know that in this climate, for instance, especially considering the fact that cooking gas price is hiking, you've had issues with fuel and all of that. How realistic is the mindset of the people? How possible do you think we will be able to prevent persons from going into felling down trees?
Well, that is the essence of celebrations like this, like the Earth Day, which is today, and other days celebrated globally through UN initiatives. Of course, individual countries may not, individual nations may not, but through UN initiatives, there are several celebrations to create awareness. This awareness comes from the top policy making body, and it's expected to flow down to the lowest level, to the local government, to the villages, And of course, it's a big task. But when people know the effect of clearing the forest, they will appreciate when alternatives are offered to them. There are people, for instance, in our client, people say, well, you have to cook. Like me, if you don't boil pounded yam with firewood, if you don't boil yam with firewood and pound, it wouldn't taste very well. It would be synthetic. For me, there are many people like me. But then, if you make me to understand that by cutting down the wood, we are also harming ourselves, I might come to the realization that I should maybe appreciate the yam pounder that uses electricity. So it all depends on awareness being created. At the moment, people are not aware. I really thank you for coming up with issues like this, but generally people are not aware. You will see truckloads of firewood being brought from the forest, and we are talking about planting, tree planting. So that means as you plant, people cut. But it's even better that way. Let us plant and let people cut. That means it will reach a stable level in which what you plant, at least not all of them, will be cut.
Okay, well, I'll come to you, Professor Comfort, on look on this one. Away from days like 22nd April, where it's celebrated the world over as World Earth Day, I believe from your department as an environmentalist, what are those things you do on a regular to further spread this message?
Well, there are other things that one need to do, because like our Nigerian Environmental Society, we also have days that we celebrate the Nigerian Environmental Society, like the World Environment Day. There are many other days that we celebrate, but it shouldn't end on just that one day of celebration. What we do in Nigerian Environmental Society is that we bring in the young ones, schools. We go to schools, extend our campaign to schools, teach them that they need to handle waste well, and bring in quiz competitions, essay competition, even art exhibition that portrays the fact that we need to sustain our environment and protect the environment. And by the time you start young with them, as they grow old, they'll be able to imbibe this culture of protecting the environment. I remember I was, some time ago, I lived somewhere in a city that the people were environmental conscious, and they had designated places where we have to dump our waste. And you see, a child can be in the car and maybe an adult throws a banana peel or something, orange peel outside. If this child has learnt the way of protecting the environment, he can even educate the parents and the adults that we need to save this environment for future generations.
Oh, well, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us on the show. I want to thank you very much, Professor Okmong and Professor Etuk, for coming on the show. Time will fail us to, lengthen the conversation more, but maybe perhaps another day, since it's not going to end today. As far as the importance of saving the Mother Earth is concerned, it's something that should be done on a regular. So yes, you should be expecting invites from us maybe another time to still talk about our climate and how to save it. And yes, this is where we wrap it up on the interview section. We'll be back after now to have the conclusion of Rise and Shine Friday edition. So don't you go away.
allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my Lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my Lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Yes, it was quite an insightful one, and indirectly I have learned that, not just today, it's an awakening for us all to save Mother Earth, not just because it is World Earth Day today, but because we need to sustain the earth for the generations to come.
And of course, the question of investing is both an individual and a collective responsibility as a people, as a community, as government, and as business entity.
Exactly, because frankly speaking, we would have to learn to appreciate other forms of furniture. Plastic furniture doesn't necessarily need to be wood, because in order to curtail deforestation, we need to embrace other forms of furniture and away from wood.
All right, so at this point, we get to take the quote of the day to stay.
You can waste your life drawing lines, or you can live your life crossing them.
Okay, so you can waste your life drawing or crossing them. I think crossing has to do with advancement and making exploits in life, and drawing has to do with procrastination.
Exactly, but at this point we have to draw the line from deforestation. Don't cross it. Don't cut down trees. Draw the line there and don't cross that line, because we need these trees to absorb the carbon dioxide so that we can just have a breath of fresh air and then live healthy lives. But